Krishna, dear devotees. In this session, we are going to look at a wonderful verse from the Bhagavad Gita, and that's verse 10.9. Machitta madgata prana bodhayantaha parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So this is a beautiful verse that describes the activities of a pure devotee in this world. So before we move on, it is nice to dwell a little bit about the meaning of a pure devotee. Who are pure devotees? Pure devotee means somebody who has no other desire, no material desire. The only desire they have is to satisfy Krishna's transcendental senses. And if we want to know who is a pure devotee, well, Lord Chaitanya teaches us how a pure devotee would act in his Shikshastakam. He teaches us, actually, Lord Chaitanya is none other than Krishna, and he comes in the form of a devotee. And by his practical demonstration, Lord Chaitanya teaches us how to be a pure devotee of the Lord. So Lord Chaitanya in his Shikshastakam verse 4 says, Nadhanam najanam na sundarim. So what he means is, Lord Chaitanya is saying here, he doesn't want any riches. He doesn't want any wife or wealth or good family, high aristocratic family, or good followers, good leader or minister. These are actually aspirations in material life of a lot of people. But Lord Chaitanya says he doesn't want all of this. What does he want? He wants pure devotional service to Krishna. Now, there are different transcendentalists. The Jnanis, for example, they have a desire to merge into the existence of the Lord. And the yogis, by the grace of the Supreme Paramatma, they want to get some siddhis, some mystic powers. So neither the Jnani nor the yogis can be considered to be pure devotee, because they have desires which are material. As we mentioned, the Jnanis want to merge into the Brahmajyoti to negate their existence, negate the miseries of material life. And the yogis want the mystic powers. So who are the pure devotees? The bhaktas. The bhaktas are devotees who don't want any liberation, any mukti, or any mystic powers. They simply want one thing: to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that is pure devotion. They don't expect anything in return. Now, Krishna describes in the Gita that there are different reasons why people approach him. Some are inquisitive, some are in distress, so they want some relief. They want Krishna to take away their distress. Some are just inquisitive about spirituality. Some are wanting wealth, so they approach the Lord to ask for wealth. Some might be in distress, so they want Krishna to take away their sources of anxiety, or they simply want knowledge. They want to be scholarly. But none of these, or some want liberation. So none of these are pure devotees. Prabhupada explains, he says, if I go to God and I say, please give me my bread, that is not pure devotee, because he has got some purpose. As soon as his purpose is filled, he may turn into a non-devotee. He may just give up his worship. Just like Prabhupada says, one of my German God brothers said that in Germany during the last war, the Second World War, many women used to go to the church to pray to God to get back their husband, son or brother, but nobody came back, and so these women became atheistic. They said, oh, there is no God. We prayed so much, and my father did not come, my brother did not come, my son did not come. So we can see that motivated devotion is frustrated sometimes, and so if somebody is approaching the Lord with these motives, they may become atheist. Therefore, the devotee who has no motive is a pure devotee. That devotee is not looking for a business transaction with the Supreme Lord. He's not seeing the Supreme Lord as an order supplier. And so this is, in a nutshell, a pure devotee. And if we have the good fortune of approaching such a devotee, that is very good for us, because only a pure devotee can deliver Krishna to us. Why? Because Krishna is the property of a pure devotee. Only Krishna can deliver, the pure devotee can deliver Krishna to us. The pure devotee will say, here, take Krishna, here is Krishna. Bhaktivedanta Thakur, actually, a great acharya, he sings in his beautiful bhajan where he's requesting a pure devotee to give him Krishna. So he says, in one of the last verses, he says, Krishna se tumara, Krishna dite paro, tumara sakati ache. He says, Krishna is yours, you have the power to give him to me. So he's running after the pure devotee and asking for Krishna in this bhajan. So having looked at, having touched on who is a pure devotee, let us move on to dwell on one aspect of this verse, which is Krishna says, the thoughts of my pure devotees actually dwell in me, and their lives are devoted to my service. So here we can see that this is what a devotee's life is about. A devotee's life is one where Krishna is in the center, and all the activities that are being performed revolve around Krishna. So actually, in the Bhagavad Gita, verse 9.14, Krishna says, he gives an idea of what a devotee, what a devotee does. So this verse goes, Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridavrataha namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Translation: always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So these are some of the activities. So actually, as we know, there are 9 different processes of bhakti, devotional service to Krishna. So Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. So Shravana means hearing, Kirtanam, singing about the glories, the pastimes of the Lord, singing the holy name. Vishnu Smaranam, remembering the Lord. And so this verse is about Vishnu Smaranam. The first bit, when Krishna says, the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. So that's the Vishnu, that's the Smaranam, always thinking of Krishna, his pastimes, his beautiful forms, his qualities. So Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, serving the lotus feet, like Lakshmi Devi serves the lotus feet of the Lord. Archanam, so deity worship. Vandanam, where we are offering obeisances to the Lord, offering obeisances to the Lord. Dasyam, becoming a servant of the Lord, like Hanuman. Sakyam, becoming a friend of the Lord, like Arjuna. Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam, where you surrender yourself completely to the Lord, as in the case of Bali Maharaj. He surrendered everything, his kingdom, his wealth, himself, even his whole body. He said to Vamanadev, put your foot on me, you can, I'm your property. So Bhakti Yoga, that's what a devotee is engaged in. So in the Bhagavatam, verse 286, which goes like this: Dhautatma Purusha Krishna Padamulam Namunchati Mukta Sarva Parikleshaha Pantaha Swasharanam Yatha. English translation: a pure devotee of the Lord, whose heart has once been cleansed by the process of devotional service, never relinquishes the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, for they fully satisfy him, as a traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey. So what it means is a devotee who has a taste for serving Krishna, a devotee who has found refuge and protection at Krishna's lotus feet, can never give up these lotus feet. So the beautiful analogy is here that as a traveler, we may leave our home and we may go somewhere, but we're very, very happy to come home to rest. Home is the best, east or west, home is the best, is something we have heard. So it is very true. After a troubled journey, we are very happy. This is our home, is where we rest and we get relief. So in the same way, for a devotee, serving Krishna, being in a loving exchange with Krishna is home. Srimad Gaur Govinda Swami says, a dear devotee of Krishna, a premi bhakta, is always thinking of how to render some loving service to Krishna and give him some pleasure. He has no other thought. He is always thinking of how to offer some loving service to Krishna, 24 hours a day. So Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, commonly he mentions this quite a lot in his teachings. So one of Prabhupada's disciples, Grihastha disciples, so Grihastha means one who is in the household, who is a householder, who has a family and a wife, as opposed to a brahmachari who is celibate, or a sannyasi, or vanaprashta. So a Grihastha disciple asked Prabhupada how it would be possible for him to think of Krishna 24 hours a day, since he had so many family duties. So Prabhupada looked at him and asked, "Tell me, do you have 24 hours in a day?" And the disciple said yes. And Prabhupada then said, well, out of these 24 hours, you work, say, 8 to 10 hours, and then you spend the next 6 or 7 hours maybe in sleeping, and maybe 2 hours for eating. And that leaves you with 5 or 6 hours free in a day. So the disciple agreed. He said, yes, that's a true picture of my schedule, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada then asked, so the extra time, the 5 or 6 hours free that you have, are you using that time to serve Krishna? And the disciple couldn't reply. He was tongue-tied. And then Prabhupada said, well, if you use all your free time, use this time in Krishna's service, then Krishna himself will show you how to serve him more. So the significance of time is that we either use it or we lose it. So this is very instructive, actually. What Prabhupada said here, it just highlights the importance of our being organized in our life. That it tells us we should not be wasting our time. We should be efficient, conscious of time, be organized and efficient, basically, if we want to practice spiritual life, which is our human. This human form of life is meant for exactly worshipping the Supreme and getting out of the cycle of birth and death. So it is up to us to be able to organize our life in such a way, mold our life in such a way that we don't neglect our service to Krishna, that we're not engrossed only in material activities. So this verse, Matchita Matgata Prana. So Matchita, if we go back to the first slide, so Matchita means their minds fully engaged in me. So Chitta, Matchita, mind, Matgata Prana, their lives. So basically, devotees are giving their body, they're giving their mind, they're giving their words, they're giving their life itself to Krishna. Their whole existence they are offering to Krishna. Because a devotee, a true devotee, a pure devotee, he lives his whole life simply for the service of Krishna, for no other purpose. Irrespective of the nature of the devotee's work, whether they are teaching or whether they are student, they're studying, or they're chef, or they're trading, or any other pursuit that they have. Irrespective of the nature of a devotee's work, a devotee can infuse spirituality into it by making it an offering to Krishna. In this way, this kind of mindset, it transforms trivial tasks into acts of devotion. So Krishna doesn't tell us that we should give up our duties or become renounced in order to find the time to practice bhakti yoga. He doesn't say that we should do that. In fact, Arjuna, as we know in the Bhagavad Gita, he was prepared to give up and go to the forests. But what did Krishna say to Arjuna? Did he encourage that? So in Gita verse 8.7, Krishna says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha mayarpita mano buddhir mam evaishyasi asamshayaha. English translation. Therefore, Arjun, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. So actually, So devotee selflessly devotes his whole life to Krishna. And actually there's a very beautiful story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya-lila, chapter 10, where there is an illustration of the difference between activities meant for personal sense gratification and actions which are service oriented. Sometimes as a devotee, we may be in the name of service, in the name of worshipping and serving Krishna, we may be performing activities which are actually satisfying ourselves. Spiritual activities sometimes may be done for our own sense gratification. They are not purely for Krishna's happiness, for Krishna's to satisfy Krishna. It can happen sometimes. So going into the story, so basically in Chaitanya Lila, and we know Lord Chaitanya is none other than Krishna. He was on this earth 500 years ago, and Lord Chaitanya had associates and servants who would serve him very sincerely. One day, after having a long day, Lord Chaitanya was resting, and he fell asleep actually while lying across the doorway of the Gambhira, which is his room in Jagannath Puri where he was. And so because he was lying across the doorway, he was blocking the exit. Now, it so happened that it was time for one of his associates, Govinda. It was time for him to take his meal. So actually Govinda, he had to, Lord Chaitanya fell asleep lying across the doorway, and it was time for him to come and do the massage of Lord Chaitanya, but he could not enter the room. It was a dilemma because he saw Lord Chaitanya lying across the doorway and blocking his entry. However, because it's considered a sin to step over the Lord, Govinda was very hesitant, but he actually did it. Still, he stepped across. He didn't step on the body of the Lord, but he tried to get into the room, somehow crossing over the Lord's body, and he did the massage. But then he did not leave the room. He did not leave the room. So Govinda, he just stayed in the room, waited for a long time, and finally Lord Chaitanya woke up and asked whether Govinda had eaten. He remained silent. So Lord Chaitanya was very surprised, and he said, "Why did you not eat?" And Govinda said, "I did not want to step over your body, my lord, because it's such an offense." But then Lord Chaitanya said, "But however, you came into the room and you did cross over my body, so why couldn't you just do the same? Go out of the room by crossing over my body?" So then Govinda, he said, "I would not mind committing hundreds and thousands of offenses to serve you, my lord. So I stepped over your body because I wanted to serve you, and I would not mind committing hundreds of offenses. But I greatly fear committing even a glimpse of an offense for my own self." So basically Govinda, he previously stepped over the Lord for conducting his massaging service, but when it came to going to eat for his own personal need, he demonstrated the highest level of humility and service attitude. He would not step over the Lord. So this is really amazing. This is really pure service attitude, and we have a lot to learn from this. So yes, so that's a beautiful story. Coming back now to our verse, so we were looking at how the thoughts of Krishna's pure devotees dwell in him, and how their lives are devoted to his service. So we were talking about how we should devotees think about Krishna 24 hours a day, and in that connection, Romapad Swami says, from our experience, we can understand that the only way that one can constantly think of someone or something is when there is love and attachment. When there is love, all activities and all things are seen in relation to the object of love. So this is very nice what he says, because let's take, for example, a family man, a wife going to work. When they are at work, they are somehow or other constantly thinking of their family, because they are attached to the members of the family. There's loving ties, there's a strong bond, and so they are working. It may be very hard, but they are working because ultimately they want to cater for their family. They want the family to have all their needs satisfied. So in the same way, if we're attached to Krishna, whatever we do, we will be thinking or linking it to Krishna somehow or other. And when it comes to thinking of Krishna 24 hours a day, our best teachers in that respect are none other than the Vrajavasis. And we think particularly of the gopis of Vrindavan. The gopis of Vrindavan, they had so many chores. They were married and they had children and families to take care of, and they would have their daily chores of milking cows, churning butter, cleaning their homes, serving their family, caring for their children. But whilst doing all of that, their hearts and their minds were fully absorbed in Krishna. They constantly sang of Krishna and even composed songs like the Venu Gita, the Gopi Gita, the Yugala Gita. Lord Chaitanya himself says there is no better method of worship than the system invented by the gopis. The gopis' invention of worshipping Krishna was to remain always Krishna conscious without material profit, and that is the super excellence of the gopis. And what does Krishna say? To such a devotee who is devoted their life to him, who are devotee who is constantly thinking Krishna, Krishna becomes completely bound by the love of that devotee. And Krishna, what does he say to the gopis? He says, "Na paraye, na paraye hum." He says, I can't repay you for your spotless service. I cannot repay you. Just be happy, be satisfied with your service. So even Krishna becomes completely indebted to such a devotee. And then obviously there's Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda, she would be absorbed in thinking of Krishna while doing chores. She would churn butter, and while she was doing so, her thoughts, her words, and her actions were entirely dedicated to her darling Krishna. She sang melodious songs about Krishna's exploits, from vanquishing demons like Putana, Trinavarta, to his playful butter thefts. So Mother Yashoda would turn these activities of her sons into songs, and she would sing while doing simple tasks. In this way, Mother Yashoda turned the simple task into a sacred meditation and love for her beloved Krishna. And the cowherd boys of Vrindavan, they would begin their day by joyfully singing about Krishna's adventures. They would take the cows into the forests of Vrindavan, and in the evening they would eagerly narrate to Nanda Maharaj and other cowherd men about all of Krishna's victories, all of his playful acts and his killing of the demons. And all these cowherd men and the boys, they would relish all of these beautiful pastimes. And in Vrindavan, dangers would come every day, but the cowherd men and the cowherd boys never felt disturbed. Why? Because their hearts were absorbed in Krishna Kirtan. We should follow in the footsteps of the Vrajavasis, because they are pure devotees and they teach us how we can think of Krishna 24 hours a day, how our lives can be devoted to his service. In the Mukunda Mala Stotra 33, a king and a great devotee, Maharaj Kulashekar, he prays to Krishna. He says, Krishna Tvadiya Pada Pankaja Panjarantam Adyeva Vishatu Me Manasa Rajahamsaha Prana Prayana Samaye Kapha Vata Pite Gantavarodhana Vidho Smaranam Kutaste. He prays, my Lord Krishna, I pray that the swan of my mind may immediately sink down to the stems of the lotus feet of your lordship and be locked in their network. Otherwise, at the time of my final breath, when my throat is choked up with cough, how will it be possible to think of you? So King Kulashekar is making an important point. He's saying, if we practice remembering the Lord throughout the day, then at the final moment of our lives, we will naturally remember him. And that remembrance will carry us back to Krishna forever. We know that Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita verse 8.6, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya sadatad bhava bhavitaha. So basically, Krishna says, whatever consciousness one is at the time of death, that state one will attain without fail. So if we, throughout our lives, we prepare for our final exam, which is death, by rendering service to Krishna, we prepare by thinking Krishna, then at the time of death, our great fortune is that our mind will automatically think of Krishna. At the time of death, it is a time of great suffering. It is mentioned in the scriptures that at the time of death, we feel like the sting of a lot of scorpions. It's a moment of great pain. So at that time, we lose control of our mind, and so our mind can do two things. Either our mind will dwell on that person or object that gives us a sense of protection, that has given us a sense of protection throughout our life, or our mind will think of that person that we've been thinking over our life, thinking a lot, that we've been focusing on. So that's what King Kulashekar is saying. He's saying, at the time of my final breath and my throat is choked up with cough, how will it be possible to think of you? So he says, if I don't engage my mind in thinking of you. So we're talking about thinking of Krishna here 24 hours a day. Actually, the stage of thinking of Krishna 24 hours a day is an advanced stage. In order to achieve that, we need a strong practice of sadhana bhakti, and that is the key to destroying our forgetfulness and bringing us to the position of constantly remembering Krishna. And this advanced stage of constantly remembering Krishna, it doesn't come automatically. It actually requires a little bit of cultivation. Because all of us have, in our everyday life, we have variegated responsibilities that demand our attention. However, if we dedicate a certain portion of the day, especially in the morning hours before we begin our routine work, so if we dedicate that portion of the day to fully focus our attention on Krishna through direct devotional activities such as chanting, hearing, reading, worshipping, then that effect will linger and throughout the day, and it will permeate our consciousness throughout the rest of the day, even though we're having to deal with other practical matters. Still, because we started our day by thinking of Krishna, that consciousness will linger throughout the whole day. Because in the morning, that's when our mind is very fresh, and our mind is like a sponge, and whatever we feed our mind will remain with us throughout the day. So next, we are going to look at the last part of the verse 10.9, where Krishna says, he says, so we already looked at the first bit, which is the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, and their lives are fully devoted to my service. And now we are going to look at this bit. They derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So this bit of the verse is talking about the joy of association in bhakti. Actually, serving Krishna by rendering devotional service is a happy thing. It is a joyful process. Like Prabhupada says, it's joyfully performed. We chant, we feast, and we dance. How difficult can it be? What is the difficulty? So it's a joyful process. So actually, to talk and to listen is a natural urge in every human being. Imagine if we were gagged for even just for 1 hour, we would find our situation intolerable. An illness that takes away our speaking or hearing, that would make us feel very helpless. But a great Acharya, Srila Rupa Goswami, questions the quality of our speech. Do we have time to uselessly croak like a frog? We have a human life which is so valuable. The purpose of our human life is to perfect our spiritual understanding. Now let's consider a toad in a field speaks by croaking. And similarly, everyone who has a tongue wants to speak and speak and speak, even if all the person has to say is nonsense. Still, they want to speak. So, however, we know what happens. The croaking of the toad simply invites the snake. Please come here and eat me. Nevertheless, although it is inviting death, the toad just goes on croaking and croaking. That beautiful analogy is from the Nectar of Instruction text 1 purport. Prabhupada tells us, he gives this analogy where we are like the toad and we're just uselessly croaking about politics, about what's on the news, about material things, material topics, which are simply bland and do not really give us the true happiness. Neither does it give the one who is speaking the mundane topics happiness, nor is it giving the one who is listening, who is hearing these mundane topics. The hearer is not happy neither. Actually, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.10 says, the English translation, those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. So basically this verse is saying that it's the devotees don't relish speaking on mundane topics. Actually, we are the eternal soul. We are Satchit Ananda, where our soul is meant to be full of happiness, full of knowledge, and full and eternal. And so we cannot really get true happiness by discussing mundane material topics, because the core of who we are is we're the soul, and the soul relishes only transcendental topics. So devotees in particular don't relish speaking on mundane topics. When talking about Krishna's divine qualities, forms, pastimes, teachings, devotees derive unparalleled joy that transcends even ordinary worldly pleasures. And again, we should take example from the Vrajavasis, the inhabitants of Vraja, the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So, for example, the elderly gopis of Vrindavan, they would gather at the house in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj's palace. They would lodge complaints to Mother Yashoda about Krishna coming to their house and stealing butter and smashing pots, and they would say, "Oh, Krishna is so naughty, you should teach your son not to do that." Actually, they were lodging complaints, and it seemed like they were really angry externally, but internally they were very happy. They actually wanted Krishna to come to their house to steal their butter, because they were making the butter for Krishna to relish as an offering to Krishna. But externally they were seemingly angry, and they were complaining. They actually relished discussing these pastimes of Krishna. They relished meditating on these pastimes of Mother Yashoda's son. And Mother Yashoda, what about her? She experienced a happiness and satisfaction even greater than the gopis who actually witnessed these butter-stealing pastimes. Because Mother Yashoda, she had so much love for Krishna, and Krishna wouldn't be naughty in front of his mother, because he was scared of his mother. So his mother could not relish these naughty thief pastimes of Krishna very much. So the elderly gopis, they wanted Mother Yashoda to relish these beautiful pastimes. So they would come and they would give her a nectarian account of Krishna's naughty activities. So devotees like to associate with like-minded devotees to discuss transcendental topics on Krishna, and these exchanges are filled with love and excitement, and people can relate to this. Actually, whenever devotees get together, converse about Krishna, they share their understanding about the Lord, and it strengthens their own faith. It deepens their spiritual understanding. And wherever there are topics being discussed about Krishna, wherever there is Krishna Katha, everyone becomes uplifted and inspired. So these are the benefits of discussing and hearing about Krishna. Other benefits are that when we hear about Krishna, especially in the association of devotees, that makes us more eager to serve him. Talking about eagerness, there is a beautiful pastime in Krishna Lila where one day the cowherd boys were out with the cows and Krishna in the forests, and they started to feel hungry, so they approached Krishna and asked him to make some kind of arrangement. And so he said, well, not too far from here are some Brahmins who are conducting some fire sacrifice to worship Vishnu, to please Vishnu. Why don't you go and ask for some food? Tell them Balaram has sent you. So the boys went, and they went to the Brahmins, but the Brahmins were so engrossed in their yagyas, they were chanting Vedic mantras and making oblations to the fire. They were so engrossed in that they could not appreciate that the Supreme Lord was nearby and that he wanted some food, that he was hungry. Because they were not pure devotees, so they could not appreciate that the Supreme Lord himself had come to ask for food. Instead, they were focused on pleasing Vishnu through the fire sacrifice. So they refused. They thought these boys are just disrupting our yagya, they're pesky boys. So they did not give much attention to the boys, and therefore the cowherd boys went back to Krishna very much disappointed. But Krishna said, don't be disappointed, go to the wives of these Brahmins, they are my pure devotees. So the boys went there and they asked for food from the wives of the Brahmins, and the wives of the Brahmins were so happy, they were in ecstasy. They said, yes, we'll send some food. And they went to their kitchens and immediately started preparing palatable dishes. And then they were ready to take this food to Krishna. So we might ask ourselves, these wives of the Brahmins, they had never actually been to Vraja. They had never seen Krishna before. But how did they develop such eagerness to serve Krishna, such that they actually left back everything and went to Krishna? They wanted to go and surrender to him. They left their homes, their husbands, and everything for Krishna. So how did they develop such eagerness? That's because they had heard about Krishna's beauty, his kindness, and pastimes from some Vrajavasi girls who would visit their homes selling betel nut. And just by hearing this from the Vrajavasi girls about Krishna's activities, his beauty, just by hearing, they developed such a strong eagerness to surrender to Krishna. Also, there is the example when we talk about eagerness. There's Rukmini Devi, the Queen Rukmini. So Rukmini was she was going to get married. Actually, her marriage had been arranged to Shishupal, who was an enemy who disliked Krishna actually very much. And so Rukmini, she did not want to get married to Shishupal. She wanted to marry only Krishna. However, Rukmini had never seen Krishna before. But how did she develop such deep affection for Krishna, such that she made up her mind that she would marry only Krishna? How did she develop this deep affection is because Narad Muni would regularly visit the castle and would talk about Krishna and his beautiful pastimes, his qualities, his activities. And so she decided there was no person on earth whom she wanted to marry except for Krishna. So this is a very nice example of how we develop eagerness when we hear about Krishna from pure devotees. So devotees discussing, conversing with one another about Krishna, enlightening one another about Krishna is a wonderful activity. Also, why is it good to converse about Krishna? Because when we are absorbed in glorifying Krishna, the worldly troubles lose their power to disturb us. We become fearless. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.77 says, Yasyam ve shruyamanayam Krishne param purushe bhaktir utpadyate pumsaha shoka moha bhayapaha. Translation: simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. So devotees, when they come together and they discuss verses, they discuss the scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam, discuss Bhagavad Gita, Krishna Charitamrita, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and other literatures like books that are written by Prabhupada. Simply by discussing all this Vedic literature, the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness is extinguished. Now we have to point out that transcendental topics on Krishna, when they are narrated by pure devotees, become even more nectarian because they are mixed with the love of the speaker. Just as the flavor of a ripe fruit becomes even sweeter when touched by a parrot's beak, the pastimes of the Lord become more relishable when narrated by a pure devotee with deep devotion. The greater the love of the speaker, the greater the love awakened in the hearers. So we see here, this picture here is of Maharaj Parikshit taking instructions from the pure devotee Shukadeva Goswami, surrounded by the sages of Naimisharanya. So Shukadeva Goswami was narrating the Srimad Bhagavatam, the spotless Puran, to Maharaj Parikshit, who had only 7 days to live. And because Shukadeva Goswami narrated the Bhagavatam, because it's coming from the lips of Shukadeva Goswami, the Srimad Bhagavatam is even sweeter. So our ears are like the doors to the home of our heart. And when we hear Krishna Katha with open ears, then what happens is Krishna himself walks in and he makes our heart his home forever. When we glorify Krishna with devotion, the Lord personally smiles, he listens, he dances in our heart. And actually, what does Krishna say? Krishna says to Narad, my dear Narad, actually, I do not reside in my abode Vaikuntha, nor do I reside in the hearts of the yogis, but I reside in that place where my pure devotees chant my holy name and discuss my form and pastimes and qualities. So Krishna says this in the Padma Puran. So wherever a group of devotees are assembled and they're speaking Krishna Katha, Krishna is personally present there, listening very carefully. He himself confirms it in the Padma Puran. Such is the power of Krishna Katha, that it draws even Krishna there. So actually, even Krishna likes to hear about himself. Krishna is so attractive in his pastimes and qualities, exchanges with his loving devotees. All of this is so attractive that even Krishna likes to hear about himself. And in this regard, we should talk about how Lord Jagannath appeared. Lord Jagannath is none other than Krishna in a blissful state. So let's hear about how even Krishna likes to hear about himself and how he goes into ecstasy hearing about his pastimes. So we know that Lord Krishna spent his childhood in Vrindavan, carrying out all kinds of wonderful, sweet pastimes together with Balaram and giving happiness to the hearts of the Vrajavasis. Now, Mother Yashoda witnessed these cherished moments, and so did the mother of Balaram, Rohini. Now, Rohini, we know, is one of the wives of Vasudev, which is Krishna's father in Mathura. So as Krishna grew older, he relocated to Mathura and later to Dwarka, where he married 16,108 queens. Now, despite being in Dwarka, being a king there, Krishna could not forget his beloved friends in Vrindavan. Even in the presence of his most beautiful queens in his opulent palaces, his mind would dwell on his beautiful, on his devotees in Vrindavan, and he would feel great separation from them. One day, Krishna's queens, they went up to Mother Rohini, Balaram's mother, and they asked her to share stories of Krishna's mischievous antics in Vrindavan. Rohini agreed, and they gathered in a room. They sealed the windows shut, and Rohini stationed Krishna's sister Subhadra to guard the door. And all of that was done because they did not, so Rohini and the queens, they were worried that if Krishna and Balaram heard their pastimes, they would want to make a beeline for Vrindavan. They would just not be able to resist. Their hearts would melt and they would want to go to Vrindavan. So they did not want to lose Krishna and Balaram. And that's why all of this security measures were put in place. So then Rohini Devi, she started to recall her dear friend Yashoda, and she narrated Krishna's enchanting pastimes in Vrindavan. She told them how the residents of Vrindavan perceived Krishna as an innocent, playful boy, as a son, as a friend, as a lover, and how Krishna would dress in a different way, how he would become adorned with a peacock feather, with peacock feathers and a flute, and how all the gopas and gopis loved him so much. Everyone was delighted by Rohini's narrations. Even Subhadra was so captivated at some point as she listened that she forgot. She absolutely forgot that she was meant to be guarding the door. And in that moment, Krishna and Balaram happened to come to the doorway. And they could hear that some narration was going on. So they listened very carefully, intently. And they were very intrigued. And they overheard Rohini's enthralling tales. And as they immersed themselves in the activities of Krishna's childhood, both Krishna and Balaram were overcome with intense feelings of longing for Vrindavan. Their hearts melted with ecstasy. Their external appearances mirrored their internal bliss, so their eyes widened in amazement. And their physical forms as well exhibited signs of transcendental ecstasy. At that time, Narad Muni also happened to come by. Krishna was so blissful that he told Narad Muni to ask for any boon that he wished. And Narad Muni replied, "My lord, may you free remain in those forms somewhere in this world, and let the whole world see these blissful forms. That is what I desire." So Krishna then graciously granted Narad Muni's wish, agreeing to manifest in those beautiful forms in the city of Jagannath Puri. So we can see here in this beautiful picture of Lord Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra. So these forms are forms where the lordships are in divine ecstasy because of hearing their own pastimes. So we can see the sweetness of Krishna's pastimes is so irresistible that even Krishna himself is drawn to them. So by delving into these pastimes of Krishna, the motherly gopis of Vrindavan and Mother Rohini filled the hearts of Mother Yashoda, Krishna, Balaram and Subhadra with boundless joy. Likewise, when devotees get together to share these enchanting topics and pastimes with one another, with friends and family, everyone experiences unbounded happiness and satisfaction. So this is just a little brief snapshot of the meaning of this verse that Krishna mentions, that Krishna speaks in the Bhagavad Gita. We're going to end the session here. So it is wonderful if devotees associate with one another, get together, discuss these beautiful pastimes amongst themselves, invite friends and relatives to relish this Krishna Katha. Krishna becomes very pleased with the devotees who do this. So let us all always have these beautiful devotee sanghas at our homes and organize so others can hear as well the beautiful pastimes of Krishna. In this age of Kali, there is a very simple process which has been given by the Lord himself to achieve perfection very quickly, and that is the chanting of the holy name of Krishna, chanting the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So chanting is a very important process, but Shravanam, hearing, is also important, and this verse covers both Shravanam and Kirtanam. So these two first processes of bhakti are very key to our devotional life. Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada.